you ever worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can't sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. Tyler, Phil, and Boris. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
It's Monday, and you know what that means. It's time for a new episode of the It's Canon podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and this week I am joined by Phil.
Right from Boris's desktop. I love the thumbnail, Boris.
Yeah, you know it. You freaking know it. We are testing things out here on the It's Canon podcast this week. We've been wanting to do this for a really long time, so you know what? Why the heck not? We are live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We're going to get our Twitch account up and going yet again, and we're going to be going live there. So if you are joining us from there, welcome. Again, this is just a test stream. I'm sure something will eventually go wrong, but for now, things seem to be working fairly well. So that is that. And you know, I guess we got to go do our daily shout out to my nephew Alex, who I know is watching right now, because he's
we
got
see
nothing
you
better to do. Exactly. I see the chat. I see all. So it is going to be a fun episode testing things out here. Phil, how's it going?
It's going well. You know, it's been a week. We are all out of our timing sorts.
Oh, I'm so messed up today.
We're coming at you live, way past our bedtimes. We're old men, so
You're an old man. Let's get that straight, right? Like
I can't hide
let's remember that. No, but
now apparently people can see. Look, who's that fat old dude? It's me.
Dun. Hey, right? No, it's gonna be a fun time here. And again, this is just the evolution of the show. It's crazy, honestly. And again, Tyler, hopefully you feel better soon. I know that man. It just sounds like he's going through hell again. And I hope that he gets better ASAP, so he can join us as we go into this. Like, I feel like this is now the fourth iteration of the show, and it's crazy because Tyler's been with me throughout the entire ride. Actually, did you know that he's the person who actually named the It's Canon podcast the It's Canon podcast?
Oh, I didn't know that. Like, come on, Tyler. I hope you're feeling better soon so you can join the grumpy old men being streamed live on the internet.
Right? Exactly.
You can be part of this beautiful crew.
Exactly. Just wait until we open our OnlyFans. But yeah, no, it's awesome. It's crazy to think, like, we started this podcast back in 2015. And here we are. Like, yeah, we've taken a few breaks, but for the most part, we've kind of gone strong. I've archived a lot of the old episodes because holy shit, it's horrible how bad we were back then.
Well, at the same time, it was kind of when podcasts were new, right?
Yeah.
Like they were a newer form of media. And I know that we benefit, or at least I do, about the fact that there's so many products available now for production. From webcams that are actually have decent to microphones that are even way better than a lot of the original stuff that was out there, to key lights, to, you know, the whole thing. And you kind of evolve with that, right? Like the headphones and all that kind of stuff just keeps on improving, and it's going to have an impact on quality for our listeners. So
yeah, that's exactly it, right? So it's just crazy how much things have changed. Like, I remember, because I still have all the original and all the equipment that I'll just slap myself in the face with my mic. People are gonna actually notice when I do that, and not just you. So it's crazy because I still have all of my old equipment and they're like really good Shure mics, right? But it's just crazy because like how expensive everything was back then. You know, each mic was like $80, $90. And these are your regular Shure mics that you get in clubs and stuff. They're nothing special.
Oh yeah, the SM58 maybe.
That's exactly the one that I have. I have three of those. And then the original mixer was like $600, which is ironic because I just bought a Zoom, one of those Zoom recorders, but I bought like one of the higher end versions, and it did cost me $600, but you know, it just offers so much more. So it's the evolution of like you said, the equipment, the lights, just the production, the quality of the cameras, man. The fact I remember Tyler and I did some live shows, and it was so difficult to do live shows back then because there wasn't YouTube to stream. You know, you didn't have Melon, you didn't have StreamYard, you didn't have Riverside, you didn't have any of those. You had to do everything, and even to stream radio, it was like Mixler, and it was difficult because people had to download that app and do everything through there and whatnot. So being able to Mixler, being able to actually just go on so many sites with one click, it's pretty fun. But it's
exactly that. And the fact that we've been doing this a while, at least I'm fairly new to the team. I'm the latest edition, but you kind of start to know how to talk on the internet and talk with one another. Makes for a little more of an entertaining show. So the comfortableness on the mic. We're there, and now we got to throw in video because hey, why not?
Because why not? Because so people can see how disgruntled and angry. You know what? I can't wait for. I can't wait for the fights because people have to realize the faces that Tyler makes as we're recording, as we're going through these episodes. Sometimes it's the goldest stuff, right? Like that's. Yeah,
I know I'm hitting a nerve when you see him do the face kinkle, and it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
all right.
Literally, that's what I think. It's like, all right, can't wait for the next sentence. It's gonna be a doozy. So we have that, but man. So again, it's thank you to everyone who's listened. Honestly, I always say that this show I do for myself, I do for you. We always called it, since you joined the team, we called it geek therapy because that's really what it felt like and that's what it was. And, you know, it was kind of cool. But it's awesome to know that we do have listeners who listen to us each and every week, including my nephew. He's the only family member who listens to any of my shows. I have some friends who listen. I have friends who, this is the funny part. I have friends who are proud of the fact that they don't listen to any of my shows.
Yeah. I got those ones too. So I know what you mean, but usually they're not so much proud that they don't listen to it. They're like, no, either I get enough of Phil anyway, or it's kind of like the topics don't resonate with them because it is kind of it's got its audience. It's not for everybody, right?
Exactly. We try to make it as open as possible, but at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of geeks who geek out talking about geeky stuff, you know, and that's exactly what you're going to get here on the It's Canon podcast, where it's essentially split up into two segments. You got the, you know, what I've watched, read, and played segment, which is just us shooting the shit, just like this. And then the second half, we usually have a topic du jour. Sometimes it's a big show that's on. Sometimes we have like a legit topic. I tend to save those episodes for when it's the three of us, because I really like having the three of us in the debates, aka I like us fighting. And episodes like this, and it's perfect timing, right? Because we have the Mandalorian that's on, and we can talk about that. So let's get right to it, Phil, and let's talk about like what's going on in the life of Phil. I think last week we didn't talk until today.
Yeah, it's been quiet. I think that I made my nightly list of shrinking words that are quote lines that made me laugh because it was another episode full of golden lines for me. But yeah, like obviously aside from the regular stuff, like shrinking Ted Lasso premiere,
talk about that.
The Mandalorian.
That's
I
our
could.
topic du
We're
jour.
gonna need to topic. We're gonna need to open that one up because that one's really fractured the fan base again. Like, oh, so anyhow, had a friend who went to Comic-Con last minute and she went and saw Emily Swallow.
Yep.
So got an autograph from her on her Lego set of the Armorer, which Emily didn't know existed. So you can bet someone's searching for their minifig now.
That
So
is
anyhow,
amazing. That is
yeah,
amazing.
and she had a little bit of a fangirl moment. So Emily knows her very well now because she nearly fainted. Because not only was it Emily there, the 501st had their Armorer and Mando there. So she was having difficulty processing the fact that here she has Emily, who she's prepared to see not in the outfit, and then you have somebody personifying that character. And something that I didn't realize, I just thought it was cool that there's this lady who is the Armorer. Um, this was a big deal for my friend because it was a strong female character on screen.
Yeah.
And that was what resonated the most with her, was just the fact that here's this pretty bigger than life person, and she really wishes that when she was a kid she saw more of that as a role model type thing growing up. So
Yeah.
that was fascinating to me, seeing that take on it. And she also took a swing by our friend of the show's Fearless Fred and introduced herself to him.
Awesome.
And she told him that she's just like, I don't know you. I've never listened to you. I've never seen you, but we have a mutual friend. And she brought up my name, and Fred was just all smiles. And yeah, we traded some pictures. And yeah, so anyhow, Fred's very excited, as he should be, for his new comic, which drops this Wednesday, called Dead Romans. It's with Image.
Yep.
So if you're in your local comic book store, be sure to pick it up and support a Canadian guy making his way and writing the stories and whatnot, because he's big into that.
Exactly. In fact, a friend who I went to elementary school with, he's the artist on one of the variant covers of Dead Romans #1, Adam Gorham. He's done a lot. He's getting a lot of traction. He's worked with Fred a lot. I've known him since elementary school. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's right. And he's always like on there because he's highly involved in a lot of what Fred does. So good for Fred. I'm glad to see more Canadian artists and storytellers out there. Jim Zub apparently couldn't be there. He had too much work, due dates and whatnot. So you can't win them all, but it's good to see a strong Canadian representation. It looks like everybody had a great time. And so it was fun hearing about that. And then for the other stuff, for me, it was mostly just for reading, doing more the Ronin one, finished book 1, or chapter 1, which was rather huge and epic. So making my way through that, only 170 pages left or something. So that's a bit of a slog, but I really am enjoying digital copies of things, and I'll be picking up Fred's book this week digitally off of Amazon. So even if you're not at the comic book store, there are ways to actively support these artists and whatnot, as we were talking about.
Yep, exactly.
So that's my little spiel about supporting Canadian artists and comic books.
Yep. And I'm hoping that we can, as we're getting back into the swing of things, right? Like, Fred's flat out asked, he wants to come back, and because he's obviously got a bunch going on and he wants to catch up with us. There's a couple other friends of the shows that kind of want to come back. So slowly we're going to start bringing guests back, which is something that I'm really, really going to be looking forward to. So before I forget, actually, this Sunday, if you are in Mississauga, head out to the Awesome Toy Show, because I'm going to be there. I'm actually going to be there with the Sunday Night's Main Event crew. So that's actually going to be at the Oasis Convention Center in Mississauga. It is on Lakeshore. It got moved from the Small Arms Inspection Building. But right now it is in the Oasis Convention Center, which is essentially, I want to say, kind of like Lakeshore and Dixie-ish in Mississauga. So that's going to be good.
Down there.
Yep. Chris Van Vliet, he's a very popular YouTuber, podcaster. He's going to be a featured guest. You're obviously you're going to get some wrestlers there, and then you're going to get a bunch of the regular people who do the conventions. And if you're looking for pops, if you're looking for toys, if you're looking for whatever, the Awesome Toy Show is going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be giving away a trip to WrestleMania. There's prizes. There's a cosplay contest going on. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's the Awesome Toy Show this Sunday, March the 26th from 12 to 5 p.m. So catch us there. Catch me there. So really looking forward to that. I love these small local shows, right? Like I prefer those than the fan expos and the Comic Cons.
Oh, that was my friend said that too. She was just like, she does a lot of Comic Cons and she's like, I don't like doing Toronto because it's way too corporate versus getting out to some of the smaller shows that are actually run by fans. You can feel the difference. That being said, it's Toronto, so I get it. Yeah, it's you gotta corporate it up.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming, right? Toronto in itself can be overwhelming sometimes. This weekend was quite overwhelming in Toronto, especially on Friday, because you had St. Paddy's Day, which was like the first real big St. Paddy's Day since the pandemic, right? And you had Toronto Comic Con, which was apparently very well attended. So it was a very busy weekend in Toronto. So I'm assuming you didn't do anything for St. Paddy's Day. I'm assuming kind of just played video games.
I laid it low.
Stories. Yeah.
I watched my stories. I laid low. Had some health setbacks, so I'm on antibiotics. So that's a lovely time of what smell am I emanating now? So thankfully you don't have smell-o-vision. But it's interesting that you brought up the Funko Pops specifically, because I've got a bunch behind me. And I say that because I've read recently that Funko hit a bit of a snag and difficulty in overproduction, and they had to literally garbage out $30 million of overproduced Funko Pops.
Wow.
So now people are debating whether or not that means that either Funko did a mistake, like by overproducing some characters that they just didn't get the market right for, or if the actual fad of collecting them is slowing down.
I think it's a little bit of A and B, right? I think obviously, I think it's slowing down, hence therefore they made too many, right? I think that's a very clear problem. We had this conversation before, remember? I forget what her name is, and I feel horrible for forgetting her name.
She's like disappeared off of social. I don't see her anymore either.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
the toy wizard lady.
Yep, big toy collector, big in the toy world, and basically, one of the major conversations we had back then, this is back in 2020, is this a fad? And it kind of seems like it is to a certain extent, right? The problem is, it's kind of like comic books in the early 90s, where they just produce so many, and they become meaningless, right?
Exactly, and that's the thing. It's one thing for me when I'm collecting the Star Wars ones because they are distinct and unique and identifiable. But where it starts to get into really touchy territory for me is all the ones that don't really stand out as identifiable. So it's like, let's go get all the BTS Funko Pops of a whole bunch of people with large Funko Pop heads and Funko Pop eyes wearing different colored suits.
Yes.
It's like, does anybody, like, aside from BTS fans, like, I'm not trying to have a crack at them, but, like, if you're just a casual shopper going into a store, and then secondly, the proliferation of the distribution. Like, if you go into Mind Games in a mall or something, they've gotten an entire wall of
Yeah.
Funko Pops. You go into Hot Topic, an entire wall of Funko Pops. You go into like EB Games or GameStop or whatever they're calling it now in Canada. It's a wall of Funko Pops, or a good portion of Funko Pops there. And it's just getting to the point where it's just like, yeah, they're everywhere. Like literally, it's like stones. You go into Toys R Us here. Yes, we still have Toys R Us in Canada. And it's like, it's now shrinking. I noticed in my Toys R Us this week, where I did actually go to the mall. So yeah, they had less Funko Pops than last time, and they had replaced it with more Lego.
Yeah.
Which I think was interesting, because honestly, for the entire month of January, that store was so hurt for Lego stock because they just got cleaned over Christmas.
Right.
And apparently, like, Lego, obviously, we're having difficulty shipping, especially on large orders. And yeah, it's now not anemic anymore. So that was a little bit of an eye opener for me going in there and just seeing what sets are actually getting space on the shelves. And Star Wars stuff is just annihilated. It's only expensive, silly sets. I was tempted to pick up that Scythe because that's retired. And I'm like, all the Obi-Wan Lego sets have been retired or slated for retirement this year.
Yeah.
So they only got one calendar year on the shelf. And the same thing with that. I told my friend, because she's like, well, I think I'm going to get a new Armorer set. And I'm like, well, you know how you bought it off of Lego for $40 last year? Yeah. They retired it as of January 1st. Okay, it shouldn't be that much more. And I'm like, it was a Target exclusive in the States. Yeah. It was normal up here, so we got it everywhere, but Target exclusives get limited runs in the States. So all of a sudden, I'm like, that set is already up to $90.
That's crazy.
So I don't think it's right.
Do you think that Lego is going to hit a wall anytime soon?
Yes, I think they're already experiencing or at least expressing some lag on sales or lag on certain sets due to pricing issues. They are being overly aggressive during this inflationary period, because they just announced an August 1st micro fighter set, which these are great because you can pick them up and get the minifigure for $10, $12 in Canada. They came out, they're $10 in the States. They came out with a little Naboo starfighter with Mando and Grogu in it. So it's like 2 minifigures, but like 1.5, because Grogu is a spec.
Yeah.
It's a head with a little Lego piece on it for a body. And they want 16 American dollars for that.
Wow.
60% more.
Crazy. That's crazy. And this is like and it's getting crazier, right? Like, I personally do believe that we are going to see that the Lego hit a wall soon, right? And similar to Pops, right? So I hope Lego is smart and they price themselves properly. But the problem with Lego is that Lego, okay, so this is the issue, right? It's kind of twofold, because I think the first market for Lego is going to do okay. It's the collectors who are going to F themselves more so than anyone else.
I think if you're collecting for money, you have to be careful.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say, right? I think Lego will do well.
If you're collecting for a fan, it's not a big deal. But the interesting part about Lego, especially compared to Funko Pops, is there's no redeeming qualities of these Funko Pops beyond them being on display. They don't have a secondary value.
Literally.
Unless they're collectors demand it, right? Like, unless there's somebody else who wants it.
They're just background Lego, for me, right? Like,
yeah. But with Lego, it's building bricks. So there is an inherent use to them. So even if you don't want it anymore, you can take it apart and gift it, sell it, whatever. Maybe not recoup all your money, but you could probably, move it along at a reasonable rate to a fan who's been salivating for that set, and you have all the parts and the figures or whatever. You could probably move it along at a pretty good, and get a good return on it. One of my friends is kicking himself because he sold all of his space Lego years ago in the original boxes.
Ooh, wow.
And he sold them like on Facebook for a song.
Like, are we talking about like the spaceship from the mid 90s, early 90s?
Oh, no, the stuff from the 80s.
Oh, the original
spaceship.
space stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Yep. That's crazy. Yeah. But we'll see where that market hits, right? Like,
it's the biggest danger right now is when they do shit like put out Hulkbusters for $580 American and busts of Black Panther for $300.
Yeah.
These are sets that nobody's really asked for. Nobody really wants, that we can tell. But Lego just decided that this is something that needs to exist. And that's where you see Lego really eat it, because they get discontinued fast and they get underbought. And to be honest, if I was a collector, that'd be the crap that I buy, because there's going to be a demand for it later and there's not going to be any market for it. This stuff where it's overproduced for a 3-year run and people are speculating on it to the point where they have pretty much pallets in a storage unit of that set, thinking, oh, I'm going to hit a home run now. Nuh-uh, you're not going to do it, because, it's the market's saturated. The secondary market is saturated with that set. So
you see what I brought up?
Yeah, you see, it's already climbing.
Yep. Oh my God, I gotta get this. I just gotta bite the bullet, but $400, dude.
It was $200, before it retired.
I know.
Like you're it's only gonna go up. Once this Flash movie comes out and people see this vehicle in it, it's gonna skyrocket.
I like this. Frustration-free packaging.
Yeah. Oh, they announced last week as well that there is, Alex is telling you to buy it. Good man. There is announced last week, after the episode, I think we talked about it, the new Mandalorian set coming out in August, the Crab Droid set, and it comes with a Bo-Katan minifig and a Mando minifig. The Mando minifig has the new printing from the UCS set, but interestingly enough, the Bo-Katan is a different printing than the one that came in her ship from the Clone Wars that was just retired. So that little minifig just retains some secondary market value. It's terrible being a collector.
Right? So the one that I'm about to pull up in 2 seconds, this is the old one, right? Is this the old one?
Lego Star Wars. Yep, that's the old one.
Yeah, there you go.
It was like $80 Canadian, and now it's up to $140. And the interesting part is there's Gar Saxon in that, which is a Mandalorian that looks like Darth Maul. There you go. That's going to be the money shot right there. And then Bo-Katan, if you scroll back, she is, then there's the Death Watch unique Mandalorian. So it's a winner for people. Now they've redone the hairpiece in the new Crab Droid set, so the hairpiece is even more on point with what Katie Sackhoff looks like. So doing the role. So this is literally modeled after the cartoon, and yeah.
So for me, this right there, that's what I gotta move that. That's the money message right there from my nephew. You'll save money on labor costs if I build it.
and that is a ultimate collector set. So have fun.
I
Those are
love
not for the
that.
faint of heart.
I freaking love that. Oh, I like this. I like this little app. It's a lot more work for me, but I like it. I like where we're going. I might have to keep that up here, and then when anything comes in the bottom, there we go. Again, we're testing out the stream. I feel like some of our listeners who are podcast only are kind of missing out. So go to It's Canon Podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Phil will have the rundown a little later, and you'll be able to see how we're turning this
Sure.
a little more.
I haven't written the spiel, but we'll make it up.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's how my life works. But yeah, good times. Good times. Oh man.
Oh, man.
What else is going on in the world
What
of
are you
Lego? We
been
haven't
up to?
talked Lego. What have I been up to?
Yeah.
Friday night. You know what? I was the past few weeks I've been so freaking busy at work because of stuff. So on Friday I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go see some friends. I met up with Kevin O'Leary, who writes all my theme music, and I just want to give a shout out and congratulations to Kevin and Michelle, who
congrats.
got engaged. So that's very cool. So kind of met up with Kevin. Had some drinks, had the best wings in all of Toronto, which you can find at Toronto Styles, and then met up with another friend, kind of just parted away. Next thing you know, I'm singing Backstreet Boys at a karaoke bar.
I think I saw some pictures of that.
Probably.
It's funny, too, for everybody listening. We're not sponsored. And this episode has been the slam of parade like this. Just
I know, right?
this episode brought to you by Alex.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's what's actually hilarious. So, as I was talking about my friends who don't support me and refuse to watch or listen to anything I do, because obviously when people got notifications when this went on Facebook, of course she has to listen to me saying that, sends me a message on my phone saying, "Fuck you." Oh, good times. Good times. Yeah, so
goodness.
that was my my Friday. Saturday had family stuff because it was my dad's birthday. You know what really sucks? So the tradition of buying my dad the TFC jersey every single year got destroyed this year because MLSC, MLS. I just blame Apple for everything at this point. They didn't release the shirts to the public just yet, right? Like you can go on the website, but you can't walk into Real Sports Apparel at Union and just pick it up. And because
you probably get it at the stadium.
Yeah, but dude, you know those
I know
lines.
it's -14.
Yeah,
It was a lovely weekend to go get it.
right? So it kind of sucked. And on top of it all, Friday night there was a Leafs game. It was their St. Patrick's Day game. So you know that the Real Sports in Union Station, because they closed the one beside the restaurant, because I'm pointing in the direction of the restaurant when I go like that. Everyone fully understands what I mean.
Well, that became a sport check for a while.
Yep,
It got
it
really
still is.
weird.
It still is.
Okay.
Anyways, the Real Sports was just full of St. Pat's stuff, so that it was just crazy. But I did get my dad a very nice Roots sweater and sweatpants from the Leafs, right? Not the biggest Leafs fan, but he'll be warm and it'll be nice because it's Roots. So got him that. That was my Saturday. And dude, what did I do Sunday? Oh, yeah, just met up with a friend. Just met up with a friend. Had lunch with her and then just chilled because I knew that this week was going to be super busy, especially tomorrow. Tomorrow I have meetings from 8 until 6, and then I have to cover a wrestling show, podcast a wrestling show, and God knows what else. Yeah.
Well, I know that just for those who are looking, I know this is outside of the It's Canon podcast. This is Boris and I's love of Maple Leaf sports and entertainment products. I say that sarcastically, but
I'm doing the Tyler face.
I know. I did notice that, thanks to my brother. He mentioned that Sport Check in Newmarket has the jerseys on the rack but
Ooh.
they are replicas. They're not the game, like they're not the
Authentic.
athlete, more not authentic ones.
Yeah.
So, and I will say this about the stream this weekend, at least it wasn't in French, number one. And Apple TV actually had two guys there that were better than the other guys that have done all the other games.
Yep.
And they were in stadium.
Yes.
So, like, that is huge. The one guy almost sounds a little bit like a higher voiced Nigel Reed.
Right?
So I
He
was
does.
quite happy with everything this weekend. I'm like, okay, I can handle Luke being gone. If you're going to tell me that this guy's going to do play by play, then I'm going to be a little more well adjusted, because no offense to Gareth Wheeler, but I don't want to listen to him do the Apple podcast where the Apple commentary on the TFC games, because I did that last week and it hurt. So
Yeah.
better than French, but
I don't even want to. Yeah. You know how I feel about that man. So
I made amends with him. So
I did too, but you just one of those things, right?
It's one of those things. I get it.
One of those things. It's
in her past.
Yeah, I know, but still, that's still. I don't. Yeah. Anyways, so Apple did come through. Look, one thing about Apple that really sucks is that they took out Chromecast support from their iPad. They used to have it and the iPhone app, so there's no more Chromecast support, which that's the easiest way. And the Rogers Ignite box just wouldn't connect to Apple whatsoever.
Well, I watch it on Google TV.
Yeah.
And I have to cast a magic spell to all the tech gods to get the audio to split to my AV receiver over optical, to get the stream to actually produce audio on Google TV. I get one shot at it, then I have to do a complete reboot. And if I just leave it, then everything works and I get the game and the audio. Otherwise, I'm telling you, Boris, I have to make a deal with the devil to get this thing off the ground. And I don't think Apple are putting their best foot forward as far as supporting us in the Android world. And yeah, otherwise it's me capitulating and going to my Xbox or my PlayStation 5 to just fire up the app and watch it on that. So that is always bulletproof for me. So
yeah, but still, it's just again, we'll talk about this on our footy specific podcast that we'll do with Chris Keem soon. But it's still a headache. Yeah, it's better. It's gotten better, but it's still a headache, and I think long term it's going to hurt the league a lot more than help them.
There are things I like, but we'll save it for that podcast. Yep. I'm a little more optimistic on it.
All right. Ted Lasso. Let's quickly talk some Ted Lasso. What you think of the season premiere?
It was good to get the feeling back about the show. Because I just dropped it cold turkey pretty much. I dabbled a bit with season 1. So overall, I was happy to see the characters. I was happy to re-engage. I was happy to see the speed at which they lifted off. And they're certainly telegraphing things. I don't know how many spoilers we want to say, but it is getting to be pretty widely publicized in the media right now that this is, in fact, the last season of it. And I thought that opening was a little bit telegraphing that. And
Agreed.
Yeah. So I'm just like, okay, they're setting us up. They're letting us know. And apparently Sudeikis has said that this season counts as 2 seasons because the episodes are so long. Like the shooting was the episode length apparently for the rest of the season is like double what the other seasons were. Wow. So he said that they were on set a lot more than the other seasons. So it felt more complete because they didn't want to leave stuff hanging.
Right.
They wanted to get it all.
That makes sense, man. That makes sense to me. But yeah, you're right. I think that it captured a lot of what we loved about the shows. But one thing that I read, and this was like more than one comment that I've seen from it, is that a lot of people are saying that it's become too serious, that it's lost some of the comedy, right? And yeah, it's lost the comedy,
Yeah.
but the show has matured, right? I think it still has that charm, but it's not as funny because everyone in the show has matured. We've seen different sides of Ted Lasso, especially through that second season. And again, they kind of made references to it this opener, but I think it just overall the show is kind of maturing as with everything that's going on.
Well, you have to remember though too, right? Like Jason Sudeikis did this show while actively divorcing his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Ted Lasso in a lot of ways is mirroring Jason Sudeikis in his own personal experience. And the thing is that first season, you've got lightning in the bottle because you've got an American trying to learn an English game. And you can't reproduce that in the second season. So the second season had to go a little bit darker and get into Ted's head and start exploring the cracks in there about what the breakup's doing, about what the job's doing, and everything like that. And this season, you get it starting off with, why am I still here? Nobody can answer me that. He can't figure out what people want to hear. And unfortunately for Ted Lasso, as much as he's, his kids reminding him and all this, that he's this guy who doesn't give up, it's really, he just wants to make people happy. And he's struggling right now to find the answer to getting people to be happy with him. So he wants to get out of there and find a new challenge because it looks like that's the cycle of his life.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he plugs into the Apple ecosystem and all of a sudden comes over to MLS and takes over a fictional team.
Yeah.
Right. And becomes this marketing genius thing that they use, especially if Messi joins the league. So I just see that there's a lot of play that could be done with it, because he's not saying Ted Lasso's done. He's just saying the show in this form is done.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Like, I can see him leaving England at some point, and like you said, we'll kind of see where his career goes off and all that fun stuff. But pretty good start for the season, in my opinion. We already quickly talked about Shrinking. So funny, so freaking funny. Honestly,
And
Harrison
sets up
Ford.
for that finale.
Every single week, Harrison Ford gets funnier and funnier. And honestly, I shed a bit of a tear with that ending.
Oh, dude, that ending was a bit of a 2x4 over the head in a good way, in a happy way. So I was, every time the show pulls a little bit of a gooch tickler on me. There's a Philism for you, and there's Boris losing.
You got me there. You got me there. Yeah. So that was that. So we're gonna move on. You know who didn't have a good weekend? We had good weekends, but you know who didn't have a good weekend?
Who?
Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Not a strong start. Looks like they were tracking with a low of $35 million projection. It ended up making only $30.5 million, so that's almost $5 million less than what they had anticipated. Globally, they were hoping to get $85 million. They ended up with $65.5 million. So this movie is being panned. This movie is getting shat on. Now, here's the thing that makes me a little, I don't want to say nervous, but people need to take into consideration, right? The director of Shazam is basically said that he is taking a break from comic book movies, and he's done with stuff. So David Sandberg is like, I don't know, I'm gonna take a break from this stuff. So yeah, he's a little perturbed. Some of the stars have spoken out, right? But here's the thing. And I don't understand why DC, Warner Brothers Discovery, whatever the company wants to be called this week, didn't realign, get new projections, because when you kill the entire universe, what the fuck do you expect happening to the movies still slated to come out?
Yeah, and secondly, Shazam, as much as it's a comic book movie, it was never to me. All right, watching the first one, I enjoyed it on the premise that it was a comedy first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it felt like it was accessible to kids. It felt like it was funny. Now I heard this is fine. It's a romp. Like
Yeah.
I haven't heard a critical review of people that I trust going after the movie as being a piece of crap. This is a self-made DC issue. They are caught staring at the toilet flush. And I don't know what James Gunn can do to fix this. These movies were in the can. You know, like if The Flash sucks or if it's amazing, it ain't due to James Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
It's this crap was either they got lucky or they continued to make garbage. We're a ways away from getting the true vision of DC under James, like years away from getting that realized. So I'm not shocked that it's getting panned. I'm not shocked that it's under received at the theater as far as the critical, but it doesn't scream to me to a movie that I'm just like, oh, it's a Top Gun. Let's go see it in the theater and get blown away by the boomy sounds or anything. It's just like this lighthearted comedy where I'll just be like, okay, I'll watch that when it comes out on some platform we don't get here in Canada.
Exactly.
HBO.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like, until Gods and Monsters Chapter 1 of the new DC universe comes out, you can't judge James Gunn for anything at this point. But it is kind of like, I don't know, bittersweet in a sense, seeing, the pillars of DC, making their last appearances, right? Because this one had another cameo from one of the pillars, and then obviously, The Flash is going to be another last cameo for another one, and then we had Black Adam with the last cameo, or the first one, I should say. But yeah, I don't understand what WB Discovery expected, honestly, with this, considering what they did to the entire universe and whatnot, right? Like, this is a you problem. This isn't a us problem.
Yeah, the only places that DC and HBO and Discovery and all them are going to have successes with stuff like Last of Us, isolated in the can, its own thing that got brilliantly produced, brilliantly distributed, brilliantly received. And yeah, this is not DC's way. They've had too many fingers in the pie.
Yeah. Neil Druckmann created a bit of a stir in social media as he's made that promo picture for season 2, basically saying that season 2 is underway, and it was a arm with a crowbar, and to kind of signify that Abby is on her way. Probably the most polarizing character in the Last of Us universe as of now.
Yep, but apparently, and we'll talk about this on our summary of the first season show, and we'll get into where we think seasons 2 and 3 are going to go. But the argument can be debated. It can be up for debate that are they going to just prolong the story or chop season 2 into 2 seasons? Like the second episode into 2 seasons? Or are they going to go away from the script? Because the comments have been vague enough that they could be interpreted as both things. And there is a distinct break period in the second game where you could just call that a season.
Right.
And then flip it over and do it the other way. So it's causing a little bit of geek debate on that one. And yeah, I can see why. because it would be kind of interesting to know if they maybe don't make some of the moves that they do so early in the second game, and maybe they maximize some of their star potential.
Yep. Exactly. Alex says it best when he says, I'm ready for more saltiness in season 2. Yeah, I think here's the thing with Game of Thrones had this, right? But Game of Thrones, you had people who read books who were angry at the fact that people who were watching the show got more content than them. Wait till people who watch TV fight with gamers.
Oh, it's going to get ugly.
It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
It's going to be as fun as watching a Star Wars fan base intelligently debate something.
And there goes a quarter of our audience.
I'm in there. I'm just saying, it's
we know
the fan base is fractured. The fan base is fractured, and the segue that we're inevitably going to make is this week's episode is a great example of how you can fracture a fan base.
I wish we had, it would have been the perfect segue, but I do want to talk about one thing while we're still on DC and DCU. That's Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder, he just continues to tease us. He continues to tickle our balls with announcements, with Batman and Wonder Woman photos. So he went to Vero, where he likes posting stuff, and he teased a DC announcement for late April of 2023. He posted 2 different monochrome images, one of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman and one of Ben Affleck's Batman. The Batman picture features text that says MOS 28, ACCD BVS 29, ACCD ZSJL 30. IMAX, hinting at theatrical formats for his 3 movies, with the dates April 28, 29, and the 30th. So do you think this is anything? Do you think this is just a re-release? What do you think's going on?
Oh, it's probably just a re-release with a different format. He's just finding ways to bring about relevance to his name, I would suspect, because hey, look, as much as we were pained to say it, the Justice League redo was actually pretty good. Long, but it was pretty entertaining.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. So there you go.
I think I saw a headline today too that said Ben Affleck is getting away from all superhero movies. Dude, because they were saying that he's going to direct a Batman or something like that, and he's like, "Nope, I'm not touching any of this stuff."
He's done. He probably hates Kevin Smith again because he got him into this world again.
He's going to track down Matt Damon. Oh, Matt Damon, I hate you too.
Having said that, the new movie with those 2 about the Air Jordans looks phenomenal. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, well, hey, man, the 2 Goodwill Hunting. They have chemistry sometimes.
Goodwill. Yeah. Kevin Smith. We talked about this and Goodwill Hunting and Kevin Smith, right? There is no way those 2 actually did that movie.
Well, Kevin Smith was the executive producer on it, so his fingerprints are on that film, and I can definitely see his influence on certain scenes. From an executive production standpoint, it seems more directorial or writing, but hey, you know what? They're friends. They get high together.
Yeah.
They have a few laughs. I'm sure they kind of came up with, especially the baseball glove scene that reeks Kevin Smith that just, but as well, hey, they've been hanging for a long time. So maybe a little bit of cross-pollination. It's worn off on them. I expect you to drop Tickle My Gooch any point now. So,
I'm just thinking of the opening scene at the Comic-Con of Chasing Amy.
Yep.
I'm not going to repeat it, but
nope.
Here's a nice little story that came out a few hours ago.
I want to say it, but I'm not.
Star Wars
Yeah.
Skeleton Crew lands everything, everywhere, all at once directors.
Oof. I don't know if that's good.
Yep. So the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, aka the Daniels, they're going to be directing at least one episode of the spin-off series.
Okay.
We also have John Watts, who directed No Way Home, who co-created Skeleton Crew along with Christopher Ford.
All right, but Star Wars, okay. Kathleen, this is my only complaint about Kathleen specifically. Need to cool your shit, lady, with all these star directors. All right? Because they all take the job and then you get them to screw off after because they meet you and they're like, no, we can't do this. She had the writers for Game of Thrones. They were like, no, we're out of here. She had Phil Lord and no, we're out of here. She had all the people, Rogue One. No, we're out of here. Tony Gilroy's taking over. She had Colin Trevorrow for episode 9. Nope, he's out of here. Like, this is her track record's awful. And this is just, look, we got a shiny new toy that everybody's talking about right now. So come get excited about Star Wars. And I gotta say, I'm getting tired of that play from their executives. It's go and find the next guy and just give him a chance and make it happen like you did with Mando. You know what I mean? Like,
it's kind of like they're trying to create a NBA super team, right? And just get buys for Disney Plus based off of names that you have attached to your series, as opposed to quality content and quality directing and quality whatever, right? We talk about this in Disney in general. Let me segue this one in, that Marvel Studios VFX head Victoria Alonso is out. So there's a lot of speculation about a lot of changes coming through in Marvel. So per the Hollywood Reporter, after 17 years of working at Marvel Studios, she started off as an executive vice president of visual effects and post-production before going on to become president of that department. She is out. And it's interesting because special effects has been one very touchy subject when it comes to the MCU.
Oh, She-Hulk, yeah.
Among other.
I know, but that was the shining beacon of, whoa, what the heck is going on here from everybody? So, hey, it's just a bad look. Like, focus on your stories. You've got awesome comics. You've got awesome IP in Star Wars. Focus in on your stories. Get your storytelling sorted. That's what Andor showed me. Is what happens when you could have crap on the screen. You don't need to have the world's best directors. You don't need any of that. If the story's got legs, if the story carries what's happening on the screen. But this whole name chasing and VFX garbage and all this is, I don't know, it dilutes everything because it seems like the narrative is about the flash in the pan and not the steak. And that's the stories.
Yeah. That's exactly it, right? And then Star Wars has hit the nail in the head with something like Andor, and it really sucks because it seems that we've talked about this the past few weeks, where Mandalorian is kind of going through this change, and it's becoming very polarizing among fans, among regular. Here's the thing. One thing is when the fans are polarized, right? And they're on either side of the fence. It's another thing when you start hearing this from people who just watch the show because they like it, not because they're, hardcore Star Wars nerds and geeks like us, right? I tend to listen to the regular viewers more and their reaction more, because to me that shows the bigger picture stuff, right? Sometimes we're too into the weeds to really focus on stuff, right? I always say this about wrestling, right? Especially myself, especially like you and me talking about Star Wars, right? So I tend to talk to friends who like Star Wars casually and they'll watch these shows because it's Star Wars, but they don't know that Kathleen Kennedy might be fired this week and next week and the last week and the week before and next week after that, right? So where I'm getting
And if she does get fired, they don't care.
yeah, that's exactly right. We don't care, and we're into the weeds. But the I guess the point I'm trying to make right now is, this season of The Mandalorian has been very polarizing for many reasons. So let's just jump right in. We won't go into too spoiler heavy, because I know that a lot of people watch. And again, similar to The Last of Us, which that episode will be coming out in the next week, we will be doing a full recap of The Mandalorian season 3. So let's talk about
okay, yeah,
chapter 18.
I think so, yeah. I don't know, episode 3, season 3.
Season 3, episode 3. Sounds like episode 18. Did they count the episodes from Book of Boba Fett?
Yeah, it did. It started at 17, I thought. So,
yeah.
Because you had 8, so 16, so 17, 18, 19. This is chapter 19.
Case in point. All right. So What did you think of the episode?
I freaking loved this one. I thought it was fantastic. As an overall summary, it basically starts out exactly where we left off with the episode before. We get to the bottom of who saw what. We then have a nice, really good dogfight sequence.
Really cool.
Yeah, it was really well done and it was fun, but it was basically, as someone who was a casual pointed out to me, that was Top Gun. She was just like, she even did like the maneuver for Tom Cruise with the air brakes and everything. And I'm like, oh, shush, you're right. So anyhow,
we literally just talking about this last week.
Yeah. So then, yeah, but she used it the other way. So
yeah.
Wow. I was just like, wow. Okay. And then we break into what appears to be a non sequitur story involving some characters that we were previously introduced to, some Imperial characters that are in an amnesty program and located on Coruscant. Now, the reason why I like this, and it was a large portion of the episode.
Yeah. 75%.
The episode was, yeah. And this was a big episode, 59 minutes runtime.
It was long, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to for me, I'm like, you hit all the points that I wanted to. You went into a side story that was very well explored and developed, like very well explored. And we were using characters that it further developed them. It told a story to me that was basically very comparative to how the New Republic is making the same mistakes that the Empire did.
Exactly. Now, can I just say what we like? It was the first text message I sent to you, right? This feels like a episode of The Bad Batch, but the other direction.
Yep, it's almost paralleling it exactly. And what was fascinating about that is, these people who are being, given work and whatnot as refugees or whatever of the Empire, they are given numbers as names, the same as the stormtroopers were.
That to me was so interesting because the rebels and this and that, they were so big on doing everything the Empire wasn't, but here we are, and the rebels seem to have really taken a step back, right? It seems to be a new group of people who have taken over, started this new republic, but they're doing the exact same things that the Empire did, which to me was just so interesting. It just reminds me of why we fight, right? Like here we are doing the exact same things all over again.
If anything, it really amps up the sequel series on, don't join. Both sides are the same. Like DJ, right? Like it's really interesting because honestly, the New Republic should be jailing these people or executing them. and instead they seem to be giving them amnesty.
Well,
And it's that mistake of they're giving the wrong people the amnesty because these are, as we saw, some of the monsters. And although I thought the doctor's intentions were very good, he ends up getting a double cross in the end, which is fun to watch. And then we resolve the issues with Mando and Bo-Katan, where they get to where they needed to get to in order to advance that storyline. I won't ruin it, but it's going to get spicy because Emily on the weekend told my friend that episode 4 is she's really excited for because a lot happens in this one coming up. And I know that Dave Filoni co-wrote it. I know it's not Dave directing it. I thought it was.
He doesn't direct
someone
any
else.
this season.
Yeah, because he's too busy with Ahsoka.
Yep.
But he did co-write this episode. So anyhow, it's interesting because I think there could be a lot of story meat coming up in this new episode. And, you know, people are going on Twitter and whatnot and accusing Mando of using filler again, which I hate that word because if there's one thing I've learned with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau has learned this as well, is that there's no such thing as filler episodes because they always have it tie back to something establishing, something important later. And secondly, it was a great way to see into Andor from an audience's perspective. If that was the part of the story that you really liked, you might want to go rewatch Andor or see Andor if you missed it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think a lot of people there was a lot less conversation about, post World War II Germany than I thought there would be, right? Because this is exactly kind of what happened there, where there was a lot of amnesty and you had some of the smart people kind of just be given passes. Because, well, we wanted to use them and we ended up creating NASA because of that and other stuff, right? So, there
were good things that came out of it. So
seeing those parallels with real world and in the Star Wars world is always, to me, what I always liked about Star Wars. So I really, really did enjoy that. It kind of built the world a little more, and that's what I wanted to see, right? It's filling in the huge gap between, the where we left things off and the new trilogy. So I really like this episode a lot. I like seeing people get their comeuppance, but like you said, to me, with Filoni and Favreau, there's no such thing as filler because I feel like everything is going to come full circle and come down in a neat little package. It might not be the same characters, but it's the concept of this amnesty program might come into play, and now that we know that people are looking and we're looking at cloning and stuff like that, well, there were a lot of questions about how we got to episode 9.
Oh, it's been not very well veiled at all during The Mandalorian. That was, there was straight up shots of Snoke in those tanks.
Yep.
So it's and as another point that I really enjoyed as well was they showed the highest mountain in Coruscant and it's the only piece of land visible. I thought that was really cool, like some of the world building and whatnot on this place that we've already been in the prequels and whatnot. And it's like, oh, this is really impactful. This is just bringing so much more excitement to that world for me. And it was already a place that I felt like I knew.
Right.
So that was kind of cool. I did enjoy that. But this amnesty program is obviously having a problem because there's clearly bad people in it. And they're thriving. They're playing both sides. And like, you're playing with the people who invented playing both sides. Like,
oh my God. But to me, it raises questions on, did the rebels just do their thing and say, all right, let the politicians take over, right? And it's the politicians who got us in this mess.
Yeah, exactly. And why don't you have tighter controls on your amnesty population if this is a possibility? Because all they have to do is go talk to a robot once a day. And are you feeling depressed? No. Like, You
Well,
just have to sit there and answer these questions.
to me,
And
what
the
was
robot's going to
interesting
let you go. And it's stuck
is
on the ground. It can't even chase you.
I know. To me, what was the most interesting line? It was kind of a throwaway line where even the rebel fleet is being decommissioned.
Yep. Yep. Like they are going all in on getting rid of everything.
Right?
It's peace. And it's build up your war machine time, which means money, production, corruption, everything, right? Like it's politics, baby.
Which is honestly, and as Andor taught us, that's the meat and potatoes of the Star Wars universe right now.
Always has been under George's vision.
Well, that and Poppy Pedro doing Poppy Pedro stuff.
Yeah, but I'm going to do some prequels that are going to talk about trade federation, trade route blockages. People are going to love it. It's what? Oh, let's have a rousing Senate session. Just okay. All right, George. But it works in the end because they stuck with it, right? And they made it mean something. But for the casual people watching, it's like, oh my God, I pass by this channel on TV all the time.
That's so freaking true. Oh my God, there's so much going on in Star Wars right now. There's so much going on right now in Mandalorian. But yeah, I think that's where we'll leave things off. I think that's a very good place to leave things off because we will be, like I mentioned, chatting all things Mandalorian in a Mandalorian special later on, and obviously we'll be chatting all things
Last of Us
later on this week.
You got it. All right. It's that time. If you're looking to find us, you can track us down at www.itscanonpodcast.com when it's working. You can look us up on Instagram. I know it is working. I had to first and test it. You can check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at It's Canon Podcast. You can email us at show@itscanonpodcast.com. You can subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, patreon.com/SNME radio. Really, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you're going to find us, including on YouTube now, on the It's Canon Podcast, and on Facebook, and on Twitter. We got them all there, but, you know, we do video now, is what we're trying to tell you. So you can tune into that and catch the old episodes, or just watch us live. We usually try to stream on Monday nights at 6:30. Tonight, we're a little bit later. So if you like it, subscribe, and be sure to tell your friends.
Exactly. We might adjust the time, right? Maybe 9 p.m. is the time where people can actually watch and listen to us. Well, we'll play it by ear.
I'm making it up. I'm pulling it out my gooch.
Oh, you win this round, Tobin. You win this round. Damn you. I hate you.
I like Palpatine Phil. Call me that now.
It's the It's Canon Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things, everything. Everything includes comic books, movies, Star Wars, Last of Us, video games, Lego, toys, what have you. And Phil, do you know what the best part of it all is?
It's all in canon, baby.
That's right. He's Phil. I'm Boris. Till next time, goodbye.